Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if it's your very first time here, welcome on in. I'm finally back with another video. I needed a bit of a hiatus because journaling was causing me some issues, and I was just feeling burnt out and confused, so I just needed to take some time away to figure out my whole journaling situation. And I've also just been really busy with life, and I needed to prioritize other things, and unfortunately posting on YouTube was not one of those priorities, but I feel like things have calmed down now. And of course we are getting to one of my favorite parts of the year, or I guess end of the year / beginning of the year, and that is planning what journals I'm going to be using for 2026. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to show you everything that I'm using, but also talking about what's not been working for me this year and how I plan to move forward with that. I have 7 journals here that I'm going to be talking about. I'm not sure how long this is going to be, but it's definitely going to be chatty and yappy. So grab a cozy drink, a snack, your journal if you want to put me on in the background, and let's get to talking about the journals that I will be using for 2026. Alright, we are going to start off with the big boy. This is this is definitely the biggest change in my journaling ecosystem for next year. This is the Hobonichi cousin for 2026. I have never used a cousin before, but I have recently, and by recently I mean like over the past 6 months, have been introduced to Hobonichi, and needless to say I've kind of become just a little bit obsessed. I think I have this one, I have 3 Hobonichis in my rotation for next year. So this is essentially going to be my main journal for next year. Unfortunately, that means that I will not be bullet journaling for the foreseeable future. My bullet journal has gotten me so far over the past 5-6 years, but unfortunately, the busier I get and the more time that I dedicate to my business, the less time I feel like I have to put as much effort as I want to into how I enjoy bullet journaling, and it just doesn't seem fair for me, for you guys, just for the bullet journal itself. Like, I want to be able to go all out with my spreads, and I just can't do that anymore. I don't have the time. But I feel like I've given it my best shot. I've dedicated so many years to it, and I love what I've created so far. But yeah, it's just time to move on and try something new. So the Hobonichi cousin is my choice, and we will see. Hopefully this works, because it's too expensive to not work. But I just really love the structure that this gives me. I don't have to create spreads from scratch anymore, so I could really focus on the productivity and the creativity and having an equal balance of both, which with the bullet journal, I feel like I was so focused on creating the spreads and making everything look great and cohesive that when the time came to plan and be productive, like, I was just burnt out. And I mean, I came to that realization maybe around July or so, that I was starting to notice that the spreads that I was creating within my bullet journal weren't really working for me anymore. So I was like, okay, let me try to simplify it, maybe take some spreads out, or maybe just give my bullet journal a different purpose. And I actually do talk about this in my mid-year journal review about that struggle that I was having with my bullet journal, and I thought I had found a solution, when in reality it was just being like needing to create everything from scratch is just not something that is viable for me anymore, unfortunately. And it makes me sad, because it's bullet journaling is the reason why I'm here, and honestly is the reason why I even started my small business. So I will forever be grateful to it, but it's just time to move forward and, evolve. Like, I need my journals to evolve with me, not the other way around. So long story short, I'm going to be trying out the Hobonichi cousin for next year. One of the aspects that solidified me on that idea was this beautiful cover from Hobonichi. This is the Foggy Plaid. I initially thought it was like gray and brown, but this is actually like a bluish gray, which is really, really nice. I already created the spreads in here that I needed, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that in this video. I'm not gonna have like a dedicated setup video. One, because I didn't film it, and two, because since this is super new for me, I really wanted to take my time and figure out what spreads I wanted to do, and sometimes the camera can be a little bit intimidating, so instead I'm just going to show you what I created and talk you through it. And then here I'm probably just going to keep the stickers that I plan to use the most often. So far I have just a bunch of stickers from my own shop in here that I used, you know, during the setup process, but then also ones that I just will probably end up using to decorate pages. I still have quite a few little pockets that I need to fill out, and even in here as well. Go ahead and open it up. I added a little bit of decor to this page, nothing really crazy. Alrighty, the first spread is this vertical layout for all of the months, and this is going to be my health tracking system, which I feel like is, you know, tends to be the case for most people. I have a color coding system here. Whether I'm going to use this exact system for all of the months, I'm not entirely sure, or if I'm just going to rewrite them for every month depending on like what I want to focus on, but I feel like these are kind of the main four. So yeah, that's the color code. And then this bottom section here, I'm essentially just going to put my symptoms. So how I'm feeling throughout the month whenever I have a migraine or it's that time of the month, or if I'm feeling sluggish or anything like that, just to kind of take note on how I'm feeling and maybe try to correlate to what's happening throughout the month. Like if I have a lot of migraines or if I don't drink a lot of water and I see that there's a pattern, it's just going to be easier to track and improve on the next month. All right, so as you guys can see, I really could not wait to fill this in. When I saw that December was in here, I got so excited because that means I could start using it this year. But this is my first kind of test for the monthly calendar layout for the Hobonichi cousin. At the top here, I have a key that I can use to track whatever is happening throughout the month. So stuff with Patreon, personal to-dos, work, and then my shop. Underneath that, I have monthly tasks. Try to keep it to around 3 or 4 like key things that I want to focus on throughout the month. And then underneath that, I'm just going to write some monthly highlights, which I feel like this is really going to be helpful because I do a monthly newsletter on Patreon at the end of the month. And sometimes I just forget what I end up doing that month if it's not like a super standout moment. So this is just going to be really helpful just to keep track of whatever happens that I want to remember. And then I basically just use this bottom portion to decorate, of course, because I can't not decorate. Obviously this is probably going to get filled in as the month goes on, but like I said, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to fill this in, so it just feels nice to finally have everything in one notebook, and I think that's one of the other reasons why I'm so excited for a Hobonichi cousin, is because I can have my personal to-dos, my work to-dos, and just my daily journaling all in one instead of it being like 3 separate journals, which is what it's kind of been like for the past few years. So just having one place for everything just feels really refreshing and a lot less overwhelming. Okay, then we have the rest of the months, obviously. And then we get into the vertical weekly layouts. I wasn't planning to really do like a super in-depth Hobonichi cousin video. I can definitely go ahead and tag some creators who, you know, I've been taking inspiration from and who've already done videos for this if you're interested. But yeah, these are all the weekly layouts. And then we get into some empty pages before the daily journaling section. So this first spread, I'm going to be doing a letter to myself. I will probably fill this in at some point next month. It is currently November 18th when I'm filming this. I think this is just going to be a great way to document how I'm feeling in that moment when I'm writing this, and also, of course, a place to reflect on this year, because 2025 has just been wild in so many ways, both good and bad. So yeah, this is going to be a double page letter to myself spread. And then we get into the daily section. I've brainstormed how I want to do this because this is definitely an increase for me. I've gotten really used to daily journaling in my A6, and this is like double the size. So I've been brainstorming with layouts for this, which I will of course show in a future video, but just not in this one. Then we're just going to skip to the back here. So this first one I'm going to be using for photos, 2026 in photos. So any of my favorite images from the year will be printed out onto here. Here we have 2026 reflections. I decided to focus on 6 categories. So we have work, creativity, health, relationships, journaling, and growth. I know journaling kind of seems like an outlier here because I do have creativity. But again, because I am saying goodbye to the bullet journal for next year, I really want to have an area where I can reflect on that decision and, you know, see if it ended up working out and if I would do the Hobonichi again for 2027. And of course, I could not do a journal without having some sort of favorites spread. So this is a double page for 2026 favorites. Any favorites throughout the year, books, movies, music, TV, literally anything will go here. And then this page, I decided to do a sticker dump. I get a lot of random stickers throughout the year, whether that's through going to events, gifts. I get stickers as gifts a lot, or just random stickers that I pick up from cafes or shops and stuff like that. So I felt like this would be a fun way just to document whatever fun little stickers I end up picking up throughout the year. Moving on to these next set of pages, these are actually all like layouts that come with the Hobonichi cousin, but I decided to change a few of them just to, you know, match what I would want to track, because some of them just kind of don't make sense for me. I don't feel like I would use them, so I reformatted some of them. This one, I believe, was the timetable page, but instead what I'm doing is palettes of 2026. So, oh, I have to add the January sticker there, oops. Essentially, I'm going to be documenting the colors that I use the most throughout the months. The reason I wanted to do this is because for my bullet journaling, I had one theme for the entire month. So it was very curated. I was only using a few colors, but since I do plan to still do like a monthly theme, but because I have daily pages, like I'm not going to only stick to 1 or 2 colors for those daily pages. I'm literally just going to use whatever colors I feel like. So this is just going to be a fun way for me to track what colors I'm using the most throughout that month and just seeing if there's a pattern. Alright, for this page, I basically just used it as a pen test swatch page. I wanted to see how many of my go-to markers, pens, highlighters, inks, etc. would be okay in the Tomoe River paper. So this was just me testing all of that out. This is just for future me in case I couldn't remember if like the Uniball Signo works in this. I can flip back here and be like, oh yeah, it does. Really simple spread. I just didn't see myself using this graph in another way, so that's what I used this for. This next page is favorites, but of course I already made a dedicated favorites spread, but this is specifically going to be stationery because I love you know, doing a review of my favorite stationery from that given year for videos or just any sort of content. So having this dedicated page is just going to be really helpful when the time eventually comes to, you know, do like a favorite stationery of 2026 video. I can take a look here and see like, oh, you know, this washi tape was my favorite, I used it a lot, or this fountain pen ink was my favorite, I used it a lot. Okay, this is the My 100 spread that comes with a Hobonichi cousin. My word of 2026 is comfort. I really want to focus on the things in my life that bring me the most joy, the most comfort. So this is essentially going to be a list of anything that brings me comfort throughout the year. And, you know, we'll just hope that I get to 100, because 100 is a lot, but I think it'd be fun to see anyways. All right, and then the final page in my Hobonichi cousin, this is the 365 days check-off sheet. I know people tend to use this as some sort of mood tracker or just for tracking in general, but because I'm going to be tracking my mood every day, like for my daily pages, I felt like it would be kind of redundant to repeat that here. I was also thinking of a productivity tracker, which I really enjoy doing, but I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more fun, especially because I have been obsessed with fountain pens lately. I've really gotten into that whole, I've fallen down the fountain pen / ink rabbit hole over like the past 6 months. So I thought it'd be really fun to do an ink a day. So whatever ink I write like my daily journal entries in, I will color the shape in with that specific ink. It doesn't necessarily have to be fountain pen ink. It could just be like, you know, a normal black pen ink. I just kind of want to see what pens I use the most throughout the year, and I felt like this would be a really fun way to document that. And also just pay homage to the fact that I've been loving fountain pens. So yeah, that is a quick, or as quick as I could have done, look at my Hobonichi cousin for next year. I'm just really excited to try something new. I'm curious and I'm hoping this works for me because this is definitely the most expensive like journal situation that I've ever purchased for myself. So I really hope it works. Let me know if you're using a Hobonichi cousin for the first time next year as well. And please, any tips and tricks. I am a total cousin newbie, so anything will be helpful. All right, since we're on the topic of Hobonichis, we're just going to run through all 3 of them at the beginning of this video. This is my Hobonichi Techo A6. This is the Spring Start, which is why you can see that it still has some months that are not filled in yet because those months have not happened. But this journal has been the biggest game changer for me this year. I've never been consistent with daily journaling, even when I was a kid and I was keeping a diary. Like I would keep it for like a few weeks and then would fall off for months and then go back eventually. But this is the most consistent I've ever been with daily journaling, which means a lot to me. So it kind of made me, honestly, this journal is the reason why I needed to take a look at all of the journals that I'm currently using in my system and reevaluate what's working and what's not. Yeah, I've been using this for daily journaling. There was, I think in August, yeah, this is August, where I really didn't journal that much, but that's because we moved to a new home. So I was not really in a stable enough environment to just sit down and journal because my stationery supplies were just everywhere. They were in boxes. I was trying to set up my new workspace and it just, like, the thought of journaling was just not there. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely a few weeks and days where I just didn't fill this in, but this, for me, is consistent compared to, like, not being any sort of consistent. With, oh, I forgot I put this in here. Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna leave that in there. If you know, you know. But yeah, so I've just been using this for daily journaling. And then for the month view, I've essentially just been using this for like highlights of the day, which has been really fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this. Oh, well, actually, I probably should mention that. Okay, so hold on. The photo card distracted me. So I've been using this for daily journaling, but because I have the Hobonichi cousin now, which of course has daily journaling in it, it would be very redundant to daily journal in here and in here, but I don't not want to use this because there's just something about the A6 size that is just so great. I absolutely love this notebook, but I don't want to be repetitive. So once the new year hits, I am going to be using this as a daily journal prompt notebook, which I honestly want to do more of. I love the idea of journal prompts, but I have yet to kind of find the perfect journal for doing something like that. And I feel like this is just a really great size for doing so, and I could still like do, you know, I could still make it pretty and add washi tape and decor for it. The content of whatever I write in here is just going to be different. Like I'll probably just write the day of the week still, and then underneath it will be the prompt. And yeah, it'll still have roughly the same structure, but just the whatever I'm writing will be different. So yeah, that's what I use this journal for. I probably will do some sort of flip through at some point once I've completed this journal. But for now, I have posted some photos and videos of this on my Instagram in case you're interested in seeing an in-depth look at some of my favorite spreads. Alrighty, moving on to the final Hobonichi in my journaling ecosystem, my journal lineup for 2026. This one is the Hobonichi graph notebook. I think it's what it's called. The reason I got this was one, because of the size, because for what I'm going to use it for, I don't need like something with this many pages. And also the cover's just really pretty. But this is essentially going to be used for anything that has to do with my shop, my small business, Savannah Scribbles shop. In case you didn't know, I do have a stationery shop. I sell stickers, art prints, washi tape, journal ephemera, and I have yet to find like the perfect journal for just, it's kind of like a dashboard for everything that has to do with my shop. So this is going to be a place where I can take notes on anything that I need to remember. I can brainstorm ideas, any sort of branding information like color codes, event checklists, just anything important for my business will go in here. And I also love that it's portable, so I can put this in my bag. I haven't written too much in here because I kind of have to go through my backlog of spreads that I need to include, but we just have some brainstorming pages right now. I have my shop bio in the front here. I have like a checklist for events, which is really, really important because I am doing a lot more in-person events. So having a go-to checklist that I look through for every single one is just going to be so helpful because it's hard to remember to pack everything. And there have been times where I've forgotten stuff. All right, next up, we are going to move on to my Traveler's Notebook. This is the Traveler's Company cover in camel, and I just have a little cup charm here, which I just thought was cute. This journal is actually going to be used for my personal curriculum, which is a trend that's been going around. Essentially, it's like a way of teaching yourself about a topic that you're really interested in, and you give yourself a period of time to learn about said topic. The whole curriculum looks exactly how you would want if you were teaching a class at a university or something like that. And I just really, really love that idea. I honestly miss school a lot. Maybe not so much for like the homework aspect, but just the idea of learning something new, like having a dedicated like notebook, taking notes. Like I love taking notes. And I just miss that. So I thought this trend was really, really cool. So I have devised a system for myself for 2026. All of the inserts that I will be using in here are from Serica Studio. I will make sure to link her shop below. So my plan is to use one insert per topic, and hopefully that should be enough. I mean, if it's not, I'll just use another insert and it's fine. And then this little guy, I have to get another elastic band for this, but this little guy is just going to help me track the resources that I'm going to be using for each of the topics. A quarterly timeline is a lot more doable for me. So for the first quarter of 2026, so January, February, March, I will be learning about painting restoration. I just think the idea of restoring art in general is so fascinating. Other topics I have in mind are Victorian Gothic literature, Impressionism, paranormal psychology, what else? I have my notes right here. Oh, astral projection, and that's it. Those are my topics, ideas. Those are my ideas for topics so far. But yeah, I'm going to be starting off with painting restoration and going from there. So yeah, this is the journal that I will be using specifically for personal curriculum. Moving on to another insert-based notebook. This one is from Rustico. Unfortunately, this company is no longer in business, so eventually when these inserts get filled, I'm gonna have to find them somewhere else. This is larger than the Traveler's, your typical Traveler's notebook inserts. This is my reading journal, and this has been my reading journal for the past 3 years. I am a very inconsistent reader, and in previous years, I have always had a dedicated notebook for reading every year, and I could not keep up with it, and I would feel so guilty at the end of the year because I felt like I wasted a notebook and barely used half of it. Honestly, switching to an insert-based system for my reading has been such a game changer for me. It doesn't feel as overwhelming. I don't feel like I'm wasting any paper or, time or whatever. So how I essentially have this set up is this first insert is kind of like an overall look into my reading. So I keep track of favorites in here. I keep track of, like, okay, for instance, I want to read all of Ruth Ware's books, so I have a spread for that. This is not yearly based, so it's just, I can keep track of like my favorite quotes and stuff like that. A genre tracker as well. And then this middle insert is for doing mini book reviews, which I just love doing this. This is so much fun to fill out. I really have not read this year as much as I would have liked, but that's okay because I could still continue to use this journal into next year and it doesn't feel like I wasted a whole insert. And then this third insert is the yearly one. So as you could see, I start off in 2024, then I stamped 2025, and I will stamp 2026 because I still have plenty of pages in here to use for that. Like I said, I really did not read that much in 2025, so I don't know if I'm gonna be filling out these pages, to be honest, but that's okay. So yeah, I highly recommend that if you are also a very mood-driven reader, an inconsistent reader, maybe try switching to an insert-based system for it. I do have a dedicated video where I flip through this journal. I will make sure to link it in case you are curious and want to go watch that. But yeah, this is my reading journal. Alrighty, next up, we are going to be moving on to my gaming journal. This is the Stalogy 365B6 graph notebook. This is my first time trying Stalogy. I've heard really great things, and so far my experience has been positive. Video games is a huge part of my life, and I feel like I have never really been able to find the perfect notebook for how I want to personally track my gaming journey. I want it to be, again, kind of like my shop notebook in that it's like a hub for anything that has to do with gaming. I really haven't done too much in here. I still have to continue and fill this in, but I can show you guys what I have so far. So I created a key just to keep it as organized as possible. And then this is the intro page, I guess. Here I'm probably going to just put whatever stickers, like gaming related stickers, I want to include in here. So this is the first one. This is from Peppercut Studio. I just absolutely love this sticker. I feel like I am such a side quest junkie whenever I play any game, especially if it's open world. Okay, so this first spread here, on this side we have my Hall of Fame. So this is going to be where I put my favorite games of all time. And then this is just my gamer profile, my username, the consoles I tend to play on, my very first console, which was a Game Boy Advance SP, and then we have a quote from one of my favorite games of all which I didn't write here. What is wrong with me? One of my favorite games of all time, Spiritfarer. I highly recommend it. You will cry. Just be prepared. Okay, so this next spread is my gaming setup. So I included some photos. This isn't technically accurate anymore. This is the year that we built my PC. And I kind of just went nuts with creating the most aesthetic setup ever, at least, you know, for me. And I took a whole bunch of pictures, so I just decided to include that on this spread, but this is not what it looks like anymore. And then on this side, I still have to add my PC specs, but I think this is just good information to have, especially if anybody asks, because I tend to forget. And then I just drew like a rough mock-up of what my tower looks like, and I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, that's all I've done in here so far, to be honest, but I plan to just include like game reviews, game guides. For instance, like I want to cook all of the dishes in Spiritfarer, so I'll probably make a spread of like a masterless spread of the dishes that I've done and the dishes I still need to do. But yeah, really excited to finally have a dedicated notebook for gaming, because it's a huge part of my life, so it deserves a notebook, obviously. Alright, and the final notebook that I will be using for 2026, although I have started using it this year, this is my commonplace / morning pages notebook. Neither of those things individually have ever really worked for me for some reason. The first time I tried commonplacing, it was in an insert-based format, and I just didn't really care to keep up with it. If I learned something new, I wouldn't be like, oh, let me go write in my commonplace. But I think I finally found something that has. So this actually spawned based on a discovery of an app called Substack. And if you haven't heard of it, it's similar to a social media app in the sense that there's a timeline and there's people you can follow, there's posts, stuff like that. But it's a lot more curated and a lot less overwhelming, a lot less anxiety-inducing, because I feel like social media, your typical social media apps tend to be that way. But I personally do not feel that way at all when I'm scrolling through Substack. Essentially, Substack is a place filled with articles, posts, photos, quotes on any topic you could possibly think of. You know, books, art, politics, philosophy, journaling even, like literally any topic, food. There's just a wide range of everything on Substack, but it's a lot more intellectual. It's a lot more, like, I feel like I'm kind of going to school again, but in a good way. There are professors and people who are professionals in a certain category that do post articles on there. But then you also have kind of people like me, just your average person who has a passion about a certain topic and they just want to talk about it, or they just want to post, you know, photos from their day, and the vibe over there just feels so different. I don't really know how to explain it. But after discovering that app, I have used that as a catalyst to get back into commonplacing and find my way around the idea of morning pages. This is the Moleskine and Peanuts collab. I'm a big Snoopy fan. So let's just go ahead and show you what I've done. So this is the key that I've developed so far. So we have self-reflection, art, reading, journaling, quotes, and media. I do have to add a 7th one here, which I think I'm just going to title like fun facts, because they're too niche to have their own specific tab, but they don't really fit into any of these generic ones. So I think fun facts is just the next best thing. This is what I've been using for commonplacing / my morning pages. And I feel like it's been really helpful in developing a healthy morning routine. Essentially, I sit down, I allocate maybe like 30 minutes to an hour of just scrolling through Substack and seeing what captures my attention. And then if I find something that I like, I find the corresponding tab. I just write my notes and I write my feelings. If I have any, sometimes I don't. So yeah, this is how I've been commonplacing. This is what I did today, actually. And I've been loving this. So yeah, it's not like your typical commonplace / morning pages, but it's something that's really been working for me, and I'm a firm believer that there are no rules in journaling, especially when it comes to your thoughts and your feelings and how you choose to write about something. It should just be what makes sense for you in that moment. So yeah, with all of that being said, friends, these are the journals that I will be using for 2026. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be bullet journaling anymore, but I hope you guys understand. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. If you are still here, if you stuck around during my little hiatus, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.